Hi, I'm Declan, 22, and the last words I ever heard from my parents before I vanished were, "You need to learn gratitude." Asterisk, that's what they said, by the way. Gratitude. While they handed my twin sister, Eliza, a 3-month luxury European vacation, complete with a personal photographer and custom itinerary, and handed me a $15 coffee shop gift card. It wasn't even to a place I liked. I looked down at that sad little card and said, thanks, because what else do you say when your parents gift you neglect in gift wrap? That same night, while they toasted champagne to celebrate our twins' success, Eliza twirling in her new designer carry-on set, I packed my laptop, grabbed 3 bags, and left. No fight, no explosion. Just a quiet escape from a house where I'd always been the understudy in someone else's spotlight. From the time we were toddlers, Eliza got praise and I got polite nods. She got ballet recitals and mirror studios. I got maybe next time and hand-me-down hobbies. Her first car, a brand new BMW with a bow the size of a beach ball, mine. A 15-year-old Honda with squeaky brakes and a free cars are a privileged speech taped to the glove box. So yeah, when I walked out that night, I wasn't running. I was finally walking towards something. My own life. I crashed on a friend's couch. Jordan Fisher, fellow coder, certified Red Bull addict, and the one person who'd never once made me feel like an accessory to someone else's achievement. He didn't ask why I was there. Just shoved aside some pizza boxes and said, if you're about to go full Tony Stark, I want in. I didn't sleep much, but not because I was sad. I was wired, not from caffeine, but from clarity. For the first time in my life, I was free. No more invisible leash disguised as family. No more chasing applause that was never meant for me. I opened my laptop and stared at the prototype I'd been building in silence for 2 years. A data integration platform that could change how businesses manage chaos. The kind of tech the big firms were fumbling their way through. Only mine worked. Thanks to a professor who saw something in me when my parents didn't. I had a meeting set with Thomas Warren. If you don't know the name, you're not in tech. Thomas doesn't just invest in startups, he builds empires. I showed up at that cafe with sweaty palms and a folder I couldn't afford to lose. 3 hours later, Thomas was scribbling diagrams on a napkin, canceling meetings, and saying the words, "You're not building an app. You're building leverage." That afternoon, I walked out with a handshake, a promise of $500,000 in seed funding, and a strange feeling in my chest. Not pride, not relief. Power. We leased a tiny office that smelled like drywall and old printers. Brought Jordan in full time. Then Alex Rivera, a cybersecurity genius with a chip on his shoulder and a vendetta against outdated firewalls. We had mismatched chairs, folding tables, and no budget for mistakes. What we did have, a shared grudge against every suit who ever said, "You're not ready." Eliza texted the next week, called, left voicemails. She even DM'd me on Instagram, which she never did, saying she postponed her trip because something feels off. I didn't answer, not because I was cruel, because I was focused on becoming the kind of person they couldn't ignore, even if they wanted to. We launched in June. The prototype went viral, and by viral, I mean enterprise viral. The kind of viral where a logistics CTO emails you with "Can we talk?" in the subject line. One blog post titled, "3 college kids just made Oracle look outdated turned us from a team with potential into a threat." 2 days later, Eliza showed up at the office. Unannounced, she looked around like she'd stepped into a movie she didn't understand. Exposed brick, coffee stains, a whiteboard full of equations. She stood there, holding her designer tote like a shield, and said, "I canceled the Europe trip." I saw the article. Declan, what the hell? We sat, talked, and for the first time in years, she dropped the filter. Said she always knew our parents favored her, but didn't know it was that obvious. It was never about gifts, I said. It was the way they made me feel small. Like my wins were accidents and yours were destiny. She didn't argue. She didn't flinch. She just whispered, "Do you hate me?" "No," I said. "But I hated spending my whole life trying to be seen. You just played the part they handed you." Same as I did. When she left, she didn't look back. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to chase her. The next morning, Thomas Warren called. "You're about to get a lot of attention," he said. "Be ready. I dropped your name at a summit. You're on the radar now," and just like that, the storm began. Not the kind you run from, the kind you become ** 2 weeks after launch. Our inbox was a minefield, demo requests, trial inquiries, LinkedIn DMs from execs whose profiles looked like they required PR teams and wardrobe departments. We signed our first enterprise deal, $120,000 upfront. Jordan printed the wire receipt and taped it to the coffee machine. Alex upgraded our firewall and then made a meme about it. I ordered our first office chairs that didn't squeak when you leaned back. It felt like Christmas and revenge had a baby. That was when my parents showed up. Reception pinged me on Slack. "Robert and Catherine Walker are here to see you." Should I tell them you're unavailable? I just stared at the screen. It had been 5 weeks. 5 weeks of silence since the day I walked out of that graduation dinner and vanished like a glitch in their system. Eliza must have told them everything. Send them to conference room B. I typed. They walked in like real estate agents scoping a property. Dad in his tailored navy suit. Mom in heels to sharp for our unfinished floors. They looked around like the paint fumes might give them status poisoning. "This is quite the operation," Dad said, scanning the open layout. Mom smiled, tight and practiced. Very industrial chic. Then she got to it. "Declan, we came to apologize. For graduation. For the way we've treated you. We didn't realize how far things had gone." Dad pulled out a checkbook. A checkbook? Like this was a car dealership in 1998. $30,000, he said. The same amount we spent on Eliza's trip. "We want to make things right." I looked at the check, then at them. And I laughed. Not mean. Just ... tired. So tired of the script. "I don't want your money," I said. Dad frowned. "Then what will it take?" "You can't fix this with a check," I told them. "You spent years making me feel like a footnote in my own life. You can't buy your way out of that." Mom's voice dropped a pitch. "You never said anything." I shrug. "You never asked." They left that day quiet. Not vindicated. Not forgiven. Just humbled. The power shift was real, and they could feel it. That same week, we got featured in a Gartner newsletter. Jordan screamed. I reread the email 5 times. Alex walked in with croissants like we had PR handlers now. We upgraded offices. Same warehouse, double the square footage, working AC. We hired our first operations manager. Our UX designer, Priya, redesigned the onboarding experience so clean and intuitive even my mom could have used it. Eliza visited again. No tote bag. No curated outfit. Just jeans, sneakers, and a quiet look that almost said sorry before she opened her mouth. I'm applying to grad school, she said. I blinked. For what? Nonprofit communications. I want to do something that matters. I just nodded. She laughed. Shocking. I know. I woke up one morning and realized I've never actually made a decision that wasn't designed to look good on Instagram. She paid for lunch. Said it was influencer guilt money. I let her. A few days later, I texted my dad. Dinner next week. I picked the place. No speeches. He replied. Understood. Just glad you're willing. We met at a bistro. No wine lists. No valet. Just linen napkins and real questions. They asked about Nexus, not performatively. Actually listened. At one point, my dad said, I read your post on latency delays. Didn't understand half of it, but it felt important. I didn't say anything, just nodded. It hit me harder than it should have. Back at the office, we signed another deal, $150,000 with a logistics firm that had been duct taping their back-end systems for years. We delivered. Clean, fast, effective, and then Berlin. An accelerator reached out, wanted us to demo for their portfolio companies. They flew us out, comped the hotel. It was my first time overseas. Eliza had gotten Europe as a reward for existing. I got there by building something from the ground up with calloused hands and a caffeine addiction. But the second I stepped onto that rain-slicked street in Kreuzberg and smelled jet fuel, diesel, and possibility, I didn't feel behind. I felt invincible. We stayed in a hostel that looked like a startup and smelled like oat milk. Jordan complained about the pillows. Alex found a ramen spot he now refers to as religious. Our demo. We shaved 11-minute data pulls down to 38 seconds. Live. On stage. German VCs clapped. That night, we drank cheap beer on a rooftop and watched Berlin blink under us. We're not the underdogs anymore, Jordan said. We're the damn blueprint. I smiled. Back home, word was spreading fast. Nexus was getting name-dropped in investor calls. Thomas Warren texted me. Told you, we walked into our new office Monday morning to find two reporters waiting in reception. Forbes. Venture Index. Our receptionist. Leah just shrugged like it was Tuesday. We were building something real. That was the morning I got the email from my mom. Subject line, family dinner. Just us. It read. No speeches. No pressure. We're proud of you. We'd like to start again. I read it 3 times before whispering. About time. The house looked exactly the same. That perfect suburb glow, hedges trimmed like a surgeon had done it. The walkway practically sparkled, but something about it felt smaller. I pulled up in my Tesla, not the newest model, but still mine, bought with my own hands and code, and parked between my dad's matte black Escalade and Eliza's compact Audi. She'd sold the BMW, said it didn't feel right to keep. A gift she hadn't earned. I stood at the door for a beat too long, not because I was nervous, because I was taking inventory of who I used to be the last time I stood here and who I'd become since. Mom opened the door in pearls and bare feet. You came, she said, like she didn't quite believe it herself. The hug she gave me was longer than usual, softer, still a little rehearsed, but her eyes, wet. She was trying. The table was set for 5. Just family, like the email said. No extra guests, no neighbors, no smug colleagues. Just the original cast. Me, Eliza, Mom, Dad, and something we hadn't shared in years. Space. The meal was normal. Conversation didn't revolve around Eliza's latest success or my dad's work schedule. No one brought up politics or passive-aggressive childhood stories. They asked about Nexus, about our Berlin trip. Dad said, "You've really built something. You're making a name for yourself." I smiled. I always had a name, just needed space to use it. He actually chuckled. Eliza talked about her grad school plans. Communications, nonprofit leadership. She was working part-time at a local org that helped foster teens build resumes and job skills. No camera crews. No hashtags. Just work. And then somewhere between dessert and dishes, it happened. My dad cleared his throat and said, "I owe you an apology." Forks clinked. The room froze. I should have seen it, he said. What we were doing. What I was doing. I treated you like an employee I didn't believe in, like you had to outperform Eliza just to be seen. And even when you did, I still missed it. I was wrong. Mom nodded, silent tears slipping down her cheek. Not dramatic, not performative, just raw. I took a breath. I think you thought love was something we had to earn, That praise was a reward. Dad didn't argue, just whispered, maybe. I leaned back in my chair. I don't need validation from you anymore, but I'll accept your apology. If it's real, it is, Mom said quickly. We're learning. There was no big toast, no dramatic hug, no string quartet swelling in the background. But we did load the dishwasher together, and Mom didn't critique how I stacked the plates, which, trust me, is progress. Later that night, I sat on my balcony, scotch in one hand, Berlin skyline screensaver glowing on my laptop, the city buzzing below me. My phone buzzed. A photo from Eliza, the five of us, mid-meal, unfiltered, unposed. Her caption might not be perfect, but it's real. I stared at that image a long time. Then I pinned it to the corkboard beside my desk, right next to the original coffee shop gift card. Still creased, still worth $15, still untouched. Because that gift card. It never bought me coffee. It bought me clarity. A year after I walked out of that restaurant with 3 bags and no plan, I was standing on stage at the Global Tech Integration Summit in San Francisco. Keynote speaker, Declan Walker, CEO, Disruption from the Ground Up, How Underdogs Win. I told the crowd about the 3 of us, mismatched chairs, greasy pizza, and a whiteboard that doubled as a coat rack. I told them about systems that fail not because the tech is bad, but because the people using them forget how to see. Then I walked off stage to a standing ovation. Not polite clapping, standing. A guy in a suit asked for a selfie. A CTO asked if we were hiring. I said, always. Backstage, I checked my phone. One message. Eliza, you killed it. Mom and Dad watched the live stream. They cried. Dad blamed the onions. I laughed. Not because I needed their tears, but because I didn't. That's what freedom feels like. Asterisk by the end of Q3, Nexus wasn't just a scrappy startup anymore. We were on the map. 7 enterprise clients, a $6 million series on the table. The Berlin fintech pilot turned into a full contract. And a Canadian supply chain firm flew us up for a 3-day site integration where their coup said, and I quote, "You guys move like you've done this for 10 years. We hadn't even had a company holiday party yet. I hired a financial controller, got serious about scaling, and for the first time since this whole storm began, I slept 8 hours without dreaming about servers crashing or investors ghosting, and then came the letter, certified envelope, legal header, Walker and Associates, LLC, which, by the way, isn't a law firm. It's my dad's consulting company, the one he retired from 3 years ago, but still uses as a holding name for what I now realize is just fancy paperwork. Inside, a formal proposal requesting a stake in Nexus Integration Systems. Not a request really, a claim, apparently. My father believed that because I lived under his roof during my senior year of high school, had used his Wi-Fi during my first internship, and developed core ideas under his household, he was entitled to 10% equity, 10% of my company. I laughed out loud, like full laugh. Sat in my chair, read it again, and laughed harder. The legal phrasing was so flimsy, even ChatGPT would have flagged it. But it wasn't a joke. The next day, Leah, our receptionist, buzzed me. Mr. Walker and an attorney are here to see you. No appointment. I didn't make them wait. I led them into our smaller conference room, the same one where we'd signed our first client. My dad looked smug, not quite aggressive, but firm. His lawyer, middle-aged, overconfident, reeked of outdated briefcases and entitlement. We're here to negotiate in good faith, his lawyer said, flipping open a folder like we were at a deposition. I stared at my dad. You're seriously trying to claim you own part of my company because I coded in your house 5 years ago. He didn't flinch. It's not personal. It's precedent. IP that originates in a parental household. Stop. I held up a hand. This isn't Shark Tank, and you're not Mark Cuban. You want to talk IP law? I've got counsel. Real counsel. You raised me in a house where my coding hobby was treated like a phase between failed piano lessons and ignored science fairs. You can't show up now because your last name matches mine and demand a cut. Dad shifted in his seat. I'm just trying to ensure the family benefits from your success. You wouldn't be here if it weren't for us double quotes that ancient ghost, the debt I never owed. I stood slowly, hands on the table. Let me be clear. I'm here in spite of you, not because of you. And if this is your way of worming into my legacy because the applause you handed to Eliza isn't echoing loud enough anymore, you can forget it. His lawyer started to speak again, but I cut him off with a single sentence. You're trespassing in my success. That meeting ended without a handshake. By the end of the week, our counsel filed a cease and desist. Legal harassment. Attempted coercion. My dad's claim evaporated faster than a glitch patch. Apparently, his lawyer hadn't realized I had timestamps on everything. Every file? Every upload? All hosted and backed up, not on his network, but on university-owned servers I accessed through student credentials. IP 100% mine. Still, it shook me. Not because I was scared of losing the company, but because it confirmed something I hadn't wanted to admit. They weren't proud of me. They were proud of what I could give them. 2 days later, Eliza showed up again. This time, she didn't knock. Just walked into the office, saw the team in meetings, and beelined to my desk. She looked pissed. What the hell is he doing? She asked. I didn't pretend to be confused. He thinks I owe him 10% of my success. I said simply. Her face crumpled. I told him not to. I told them to leave you alone. I nodded, but they never wanted me. Just my story. Eliza sat down hard in the nearest chair. Do you hate us? No, I said. But I'm done being useful at the cost of my peace. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweatshirt. No makeup, no press-on lashes. Just Eliza, real and raw. I'm applying for scholarships, she said quietly. For real, I want to study social impact design. Help build better systems for kids who grow up like we did. Invisible. I blinked. You mean like I did? She winced. Yeah, I nodded slowly. That's a start. Eliza took a breath, then said something that stopped me cold. I declined my trust fund. I raised an eyebrow. You what? She nodded. Told them I didn't want it. Told them if they really wanted to show support, they could donate it. Kids like us don't need handouts. They need people who see them. That was the first time I realized she wasn't just trying to be my sister again. She already was. That night, I pulled the old gift card from my corkboard. Stared at it. The same $15 piece of plastic that once made me pack my bags and disappear. I didn't burn it. Didn't throw it away. I flipped it over. Wrote the date we launched Nexus on the back and slid it into my desk drawer. Legacy doesn't start with applause. It starts with clarity. 6 months after the failed equity ambush from my father, Nexus closed our series around $6.75 million led by a VC firm that literally asked, "So, when do you guys plan to eat something besides pizza and panic?" We upgraded again. New headquarters in the old rail district downtown. Exposed beams, glass-walled offices, espresso machine we didn't know how to use properly. I walked through the space that first Monday morning like I'd wandered into someone else's success story. Except it wasn't someone else's. It was mine. We had 22 employees now, developers, ops, onboarding, support, and a waiting list of interns from the same university that once barely remembered my name. Nexus wasn't just scaling. It was stabilizing. The late nights became strategy meetings. The emergencies turned into metrics. One afternoon, Priya, our client success lead, handed me a letter, grinning. From Berlin, she said. Inside was a handwritten note from the CTO of the fintech firm we'd piloted with. We've restructured our backend around your framework. Our customers are noticing. You didn't just change our platform. You changed our standard. It hit me harder than I expected. Not because it was a tech win, but because for once I had changed the standard. I, Declan Walker, former Twin in the Shadow, $15 gift card champion. Family footnote, had become the blueprint. And then came the invitation. Subject, commencement keynote invitation, class of 2026, Jefferson University. It was real. From the dean herself. She wanted me to speak, as in, address the graduates, as in, stand where I once sat, invisible, and show the next generation what's possible when you stop asking for permission to exist. I said yes. I spent 2 weeks writing that speech. Not a PR pitch. Not a LinkedIn fluff piece. Just truth. And when I stood on that stage in my old campus auditorium, looking out over 600 students in gowns and panic, I said this: sometimes the people who claim to love you the most will be the ones who make you feel the smallest. Don't waste your life waiting to be seen. Build something so loud, so real, so undeniably yours. They have no choice but to look. Standing ovation. Not because I was famous, because I was proof. Afterward, I met with a small group of graduates. One of them, a skinny kid in a faded hoodie, said, "Your story. I think I needed to hear that. I've been feeling like no one sees me." I looked him in the eye. Then stop waiting. Make them. That night, I flew home. Not to the house I left, to the one I bought. Quiet neighborhood, 2-story, no gate. I'd furnished it modestly. Bookshelves, real art, a balcony where I could breathe. Eliza visited the next day. She handed me an envelope. Inside, her grad school acceptance letter and a photo of her working with foster kids at a community resume workshop. "I kept your advice on my mirror," she said. "Stop apologizing for their mistakes." I hugged her. This time, it felt right. Later, I opened a new file on my laptop. Title: The Gift Card Manifesto. It was part memoir, part startup philosophy, part letter to the kid I used to be. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet. Maybe a blog series. Maybe a book. Maybe just a private manifesto to read when the world starts whispering again. You're not enough. But I ended the first page with this: that $15 coffee shop gift card didn't buy coffee. It bought me clarity. It was the moment I stopped asking to be loved the way they love her and started building a life so full, so loud, so blazing with proof that I'd never have to explain my worth again. The next morning, I drove to the coffee shop on the card. Yes, it still existed. I walked in, ordered a black coffee, and handed the card to the barista. It still had $15 on it. I didn't spend it. I framed it, put it on the office wall, right next to our first whiteboard sketch, a reminder that gratitude, the kind they tried to force down my throat, I found it. Not in them. In me, and I will never give it back.